This video is about using production possibility frontier analysis to illustrate recessions and economic decline. Recessions occur when GDP declines over 2 consecutive quarters. So that basically means that the economy's output falls continuously over a 6-month period. When output declines, the demand for factors of production, including labour, will decline with it. So therefore, one of the characteristics of a recession is rising unemployment. A very severe, long-lasting recession is called a depression, and the best known example of that occurred during the 1930s, where output declined for the best part of a decade. Keynesians believe that the level of aggregate demand in the economy, that's the total level of spending, determines the economy's output and employment level. So, unsurprisingly, Keynesians attribute recessions to a lack of aggregate demand in the economy. Something's happened to decrease spending, and firms respond to that fall in spending by cutting production, and across the whole economy, output falls and you get a recession and rising unemployment. So the Keynesian remedy to recession is that the government should pump aggregate demand into the economy to get the economy moving again. Production possibility frontiers can be used to illustrate a recession. In this case, we've got an economy that can produce either goods or services. At the moment, the economy is achieving full employment. It's operating on the edge of the PPF at point A, producing a GDP of G1 plus S1. Now, let's take the Keynesian interpretation of recession and say, well, something happens that shatters consumer confidence and maybe households start saving. If households start saving, then consumption will fall. If consumption falls, firms will sell fewer goods. If firms sell fewer goods, they won't need to employ as many people. So what begins to happen is that output falls and unemployment starts to rise. So the economy moves from point A towards point B. We're now producing less than the economy's maximum output level because we're operating at B, which is inside the PPF, and GDP falls to S2 plus G2. So to recap, the economy was operating at full employment, producing G1 plus S1. Consumer confidence suddenly drops. As a result, aggregate demand falls. Firms react to falling sales by cutting production to prevent the buildup of unsold stock. The derived demand for labour falls, causing unemployment to rise. The fall in aggregate demand has caused a recession. National output has fallen from G1 plus S1 to G2 plus S2. The unemployment caused by the recession means that the economy is operating at point B, which is inside the economy's PPF. So we'll now turn our attention to the issue of economic decline. Economic decline implies a permanent, long-lasting fall in the economy's productive capacity. So something's happened that's either destroyed factors of production or some long-lasting adverse change to productivity has occurred. So we can use production possibility frontier analysis to illustrate an economy that's declined. So the starting point is an economy that can produce anywhere along PPF1, and something happens that either destroys the quantity or compromises the quality of this country's factors of production. And because of one or both of those things, again, we're talking about an adverse change to either the quantity or quality of factors of production. What happens is that the productive capacity of the economy shrinks. So we move to a new production possibility frontier that's inside the old production possibility frontier curve PPF1. So there's been a permanent decline in the productive capacity of the economy. So again, to recap, the economy declines when the productive capacity of the economy shrinks over time. Economic decline causes the PPF to shift to the left from PPF1 to PPF2. Economic decline causes a long-term fall in output and hence a fall in the material standard of living. Economic decline can be caused by one of two factors. Number one, a decrease in the quantity of factors of production, and number two, declining factor quality, i.e. factor productivity has fallen. So what we'll do next is examine some possible causes of long-term decline. So these are factors that either reduce the quantity of a nation's factors of production or compromise the quality of those factors of production. The first one is war. So war obviously killed, this is World War I, killed people of fighting age who were economically productive. Talent was lost. A decrease in the UK's quantity of labour obviously had adverse impacts on the nation's productive capacity. Wars can also damage the capital stock of a country. Typically during wars, countries target a nation's factories and its infrastructure. This is definitely true. It's been true for a very long time. The picture shown there is of Libya after the Western bombing campaign. Another cause of economic decline is a reduction in the amount of land available to a country. So at the end of the 1980s, there was a nuclear accident in Ukraine, and in the area surrounding the city of Chernobyl, there was high levels of radioactivity that took farmland out of cultivation. That would reduce the productive capacity of the Ukrainian economy because it will take a very long time for that land to become safe to farm on again. Greta Thunberg would argue that climate change could cause the production possibility frontier to shift to the left. In other words, climate change could cause economic decline. The logic being that climate change might reduce the productivity of land because droughts, for example, might reduce the productivity of land. A country's culture and its education system could cause an economic decline if the values inculcated into society by education aren't ones that encourage enterprise and hard work. So this could cause a permanent loss of productivity. A decline in the stock of a country's capital would also cause economic decline. Technology advances every year, so as a consequence of that, machinery has an expected useful life. It will eventually become technologically obsolete. So if you don't replace that technology as it starts to break down and become unsuitable, and you fail to undertake that replacement investment, over time the capital stock of your economy will start shrinking, and as a consequence of that you'll begin to decline economically. Some types of capital can also physically deteriorate as they use some equipment, like these trams might just start falling to bits. So if you fail to undertake the replacement investment needed, then over time, once again, the capital stock of your economy will start to shrink, and with it, that will push your PPF to the left and you'll enter economic decline. So what we're talking about here is the importance of just at least investing enough to replace worn out or depreciated capital equipment. And once again, that brings us to the end of another economics video. I hope you found it useful.